Welcome to the channel, this is Nerd.World, and today I'm doing another Star Trek episode on a vessel we see very briefly, but it's become a bit of a fan favourite, and one of the few ships, and I mean one of the few, there aren't really many, from the 32nd century that I actually kind of liked the look of, but I particularly liked the quite nice tribute to Eisenberg, who passed away, and they named an entire ship after him, the Eisenberg Class USS Nog, and admittedly, there isn't a lot on this ship, but we're going to talk about it in this episode. Before we get started, I'd just like to mention my sponsor, Relentless Rebels. They're linked in the description below. They do Viking-style jewelry, and recently, as of the uploading of this video, they have recently added some new lines to their website, so please check them out. And if you do decide to buy anything, use the code NERD20 at checkout, and you'll get a 20% discount on your purchases. With that said, let's get into the Eisenberg Class Starship of the 32nd century Starfleet. Okay, so we start with what we do know about the Eisenberg Class. This class of vessel, by the time of the arrival of the USS Discovery in 3189, had been around for over 100 years, we think. This is demonstrated by the fact that in the simulation of the burn, there are 4 Eisenberg class starships shown to be being destroyed in that tragic event, which took place in 3069, over 100 years earlier. Now let's assume that those vessels had already had at least 10 years service. That puts them being produced in the 3050s, maybe early design starting in the 3040s, but they could be even older than that. We don't know how old this class of ship really is. Starfleet does have many legacy classes, such as the Excelsior class, that were in service for well over 100 years. Some Constitution class starships, Oberth class starships, they all managed to be in service for 100 years or more. So it's entirely possible this was a legacy ship, but let's put that to one side because that's pure speculation. What we know is they were definitely around for a little over 100 years. We know nothing about their firepower. We know they're armed because Starfleet did send these one of these ships in, specifically the USS Nog, to help surround the USS Discovery when it was captured and used to infiltrate Starfleet Command. So it has some kind of firepower. What exactly, we don't know. In addition to that, we also don't know what its maximum warp capability is. We do know that one of the features of this vessel, like many ships of the 32nd century, is that it has detached nacelles and other advanced nano-intuitive technologies, as well as possibly biomechanical and even holographic hull components. And if you believe vessels like the Enterprise J, the alloys being used can be a centimeter thick, but be stronger than several meters of titanium that were used aboard the Galaxy class. So it would have had an immensely strong hull, even if it wasn't a combat vessel, which based on its hull design, I would say it probably wasn't. It actually was more in keeping with what we see with Starfleet. And a lot of the time, basically transports and other sort of long-range survey vessels. If you actually look at the sort of sweeping design of the ship, it doesn't look like a combat vessel. It's kind of bulky, it's got a lot of large surface areas that will be easily targetable. So that doesn't exactly scream combat effectiveness. And unfortunately, that's pretty much everything we know about the Eisenberg class. We only know of one ship of the commissioned class, the USS Nog. Now obviously there were more, and there may be more of them still in service, assuming Starfleet is still producing this ship, and even if it's not, there very likely is more of them bobbing around the galaxy somewhere. As I said, 4 of them were destroyed during the burn. It's shown on screen, but that could have been a simulation for the benefit of whoever they were showing it to, but let's assume it was an actual sensor record from the time period. So, as I said, unfortunately, that's pretty much it. And basically, CBS, you need to give us more beauty shots of these vessels. You need to show more of the vessels in the 32nd century. The Discovery is kind of the ugly duckling next to some of them, and I'd like to see a little more of them, particularly this ship. They went out of their way to name it after Aaron Eisenberg, and named it after his character, the USS Nog. So, I want to see more of it. I want to see more of what it can do. I want to see the inside. I don't just want to see the outside. I want to see some schematics, not just fan ones. Nothing like that. I want to see what it can do. but it is one of my favourite designs from the 32nd century. It's an elegant looking ship. It's actually quite pretty. It kind of looks like a teardrop kind of design with little floating nacelles next to it. And I think it's actually quite a pretty vessel, but without knowing more about it, which I would like to, I don't want to speculate by going, oh, there's a nubbin on the hull that could be a torpedo launcher, because I don't even know if they're using torpedoes in the 32nd century in that sense, or if they're what other forms weapons might take for a standard Starfleet issue to a starship at that time. So I'm not going to speculate what things might be. The nacelles are pretty obvious, but other than that, could be anything on that ship. So let me know what everyone thinks. Put it in the comments below. Are there anything you know about this ship that I couldn't find? Because I've searched forums, I have searched other YouTube channels, I have searched memory alpha. There isn't even a memory beta on this ship, really, so there's nothing. And if I have missed something, let me know in the comments below. I'd like to do a more extensive video on the 32nd century ships. If it interests people, I will. Depending on how much traction this video gets, anyway. There isn't a lot on them, unfortunately. As I said, like, share, subscribe, check out my sponsor, Relentless Rebels, and bye-bye.